In today's competitive market, a very strong work culture is really essential for attracting top talent. And it is really essential for achieving the organizational goals and their productivity. So if company these days really want to attract that talent, they have to work towards their work culture. Otherwise, in the coming years, they will find very difficult to retain that talent. Yet, achieving this can feel elusive for many organizations. And we often hear about fostering a positive work environment. But the question is, how do we actually get there? Because it's not just about giving them a perks or maybe just having the activities or just having the ping pong tables in the company. It is also one of the strategic investment for companies, which is the most valuable asset. That is their employees, that is the people. And throughout this episode, we will delve into different ways how coaching can impact an organizational culture. And before we go more further, just want to share here a very interesting study, which is by the International Coaching Federation and ICF body, that companies with strong coaching culture experience a 21% increase in profitability and 53% improvement in employee retention compared to those companies without coaching culture. But how exactly does coaching can transform an organizational soul? And for that, let's dive in with our today's guest. And before we introduce her, I just want to give an introduction about myself. My name is Himani Deswal, and I'm a founder of a platform which we say Yuni, which is a holistic platform for women's growth, where we provide coaching and personal branding services to the individuals and organizations through global pool of certified coaches and personal branding experts. And today, we are going to have our guest, Sandhya Bhat, who is a leadership and executive coach and people strategist, and also a good friend to whom I know from almost 3 years. So please welcome Sandhya for our today's talk. So please tell about yourself and about your coaching journey.
Thank you, Himani. It's a pleasure to be here, and more so because, like you said, we're friends and we've collaborated together. I think we've conducted a lot of our coaching journey together, so it's been a pleasure. Um, my journey as a coach has been for the last 6 or 7 years. Predominantly, I'm an HR professional, and I work a lot in the area of people strategy and aligning business with people function. So that's really been my core. But I think there came a point in my life when I realized that I needed to do something more. And coaching really came to me as my own I really wanted to offer something more to my clients, especially the CXOs. A lot of entrepreneurs, I think, who really wanted me to look at coaching and see how I could, partner with them in their journey of growth. So I am a PCC, which is a level 2 ICF certified coach. I'm on my way to a level 3. And I have with me, I think, about close to 2,000 hours of coaching, probably a little more. I'm also a systemic team coach, certified again from ICF. And I think as a coach, every coaching intervention that you do, either with an organization or with an individual, gives you or gives me a lot of areas for my own growth and input. So that's been my journey, Himani. And I look forward to this conversation with you.
Yeah. I want to ask here, Sandhya, before we ask about today's topic, how you felt about your journey, HR consultant, and then coaching? Do you feel was it aligning, and do you feel a lot of difference there?
There is a lot of difference because as an HR consultant, I've been a consultant for the last 13, 15, 14 odd years. Before that, I was working in the services sector as an HR professional. But I think when you are in the HR role, and more so as a consultant, you're used to giving solutions, right? You're in the your primary role is to be able to address a business problem by giving a solution or by providing alternatives. Uh, and I think when I became a coach, I had to learn or I had to unlearn the art of not giving any solution, you know, of really believing that the client knew what they had to work at and what is it that their strengths that they could tap into. And I just had to hold back my habit of giving solutions and advice and really partner with them and see what they wanted to do. Sorry. So it was a learning, it was a huge process of unlearning and learning both, Himani. And I'm grateful for that because I think it helped me to work a lot on my own self. It's made me a lot more human, and it's grounded me in ways that I can not imagine, because it's just when you're working in a coaching conversation where you're an equal, the whole footing changes, right? The whole experience is so beautiful. So yeah, it's been a constant, and I think every day you learn. So it's been beautiful and rewarding.
And I can really understand, because sometimes, when you start, especially this journey, it becomes so difficult if you're from the same field to hold yourself back to give a solution. Yeah,
And I think also I had to be comfortable with not knowing all the answers, you know, which was a big thing for me to move away from. I had to be comfortable with admitting to the client, hey, I don't know. Let's see what can come out of this conversation. Or I don't know your answer.
yeah,
To me, that was a bigger challenge. And I think I'm still getting there, but, and it's a beautiful journey.
yeah. Thank you, Sandhya, for sharing that. What I want to ask here, like we are talking about here coaching and also talking about the organizational culture. Okay. So the question is about how can coaching empower both leaders and employees to create a more collaborative and engaged work environment in the companies?
Yeah, I think when you look at the Indian business scenario, I think coaching is still not as matured as probably the US, UK, or European markets. Um, and one of the reasons is that people are still warming up to the idea of having a coach. It requires a certain amount of investment, both financially and in terms of time, effort. Um, but I think the benefits that coaching has for an organization, and especially the culture of an organization, is so profound. Uh, Imagine you have an organization where you are coaching, say, the leadership team, or L minus one, and you're really working on the who of those people. It's not about the what. It's primarily you're enabling a workforce where you are equipping them with internal change and internal movement, which will help them to not only work for themselves, but also take their whole teams with them. So, um, when you talk of organizational culture, you're really looking at, employee behavior. You're looking at how is coaching going to align to business performance, and that's very key because at the end of the day, business has to be impacted by its bottom line numbers, right? Top line, bottom line, both. Um, what are some of the competitive advantages that people have, which they're not even aware of? And whatever style of coaching that you look at, be it individual coaching or team coaching, um, it's got a very, very strong impact on the value and belief of that specific individual or team. It impacts the working style. It really looks at transformation from within, and also a systemic transformation across the organization. So it's got a huge role to play in building and sustaining the organizational culture, Himani. I think it's a very, very strong tool.
Yeah. Especially something what I feel is like, right, specifically I talk about right now the Indian market, the
Yeah.
way the attrition rate is increasing. There's a lot of difference coming, between the leadership gap and the new Gen Zs. And I feel if the coaching culture can develop more by the companies, it can help to bridge that gap.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely on point there. In fact, there are many organizations that I'm a part of, both as a coach and as an HR leader, where, and I tell this all the time, that it is not about the Gen Zs who need to be coached or trained. A lot of the times, it is the managers or the leaders who are working with Gen Zs who need to be coached,
Mm,
because I think So while the Gen Zs may have areas of improvement or development, let's not forget that they come with immense amount of energy. They come with a great deal of risk-taking ability, which probably our generation did not have, or maybe lacked to some extent. But there are a lot of pluses. And if we as leaders can leverage that energy, that expertise, that momentum, that passion, um, you'll have a workforce that is very aligned, and you'll have, so which is why I'm saying that working with Gen Zs has to be both ways. It's not just about training the Gen Zs, but it's also about coaching managers and leaders who work with the Gen Zs to really understand what needs to shift in their style of leadership to work with them.
Yeah, very truly said. And with that, I want to ask you the next question is about for leaders, considering coaching for their teams. All right, if they
Yeah.
want to consider that, what are some of the biggest improvements the companies can see in their culture after implementing it?
So I have worked with huge companies, which are really, really like giant-sized companies, and also worked with really small firms, boutique firms having 50, 70, 80 people. And no matter what the size of the organization, having a sustained and meaningful coaching intervention has really, what I have seen is that there is a lot more awareness about the possibilities of collaboration more. Um, there is a lot of transparency and openness with which that culture of dialogue gets built, because when you are coaching an individual, really what you're doing is you're really looking at breaking down the barriers that the person has. And these are barriers that are there from possibly a long time. They could be childhood barriers, there could be notional barriers. And imagine a scenario where coaching either 5 people or coaching 50 people, you're really working on the very inner core of all of them. And you're helping them to see things in a different light. You're helping them to believe in themselves more. You're making them sort of see the power of teamwork, collaboration. How can you be a better listener? So I think when you look at what areas of improvement,
Yeah.
it really depends on what the business wants to do or what the organizational culture is. So there have been many instances where, as a coach, when I go and coach an organization, there are some 3 or 4 broad themes that emerge. Things like how can leaders build their brand within the organization? Um, Delegation is another area. Um, Collaboration is another area. And what are people or what are the leaders doing in terms of themselves being internal coaches,
Mm.
right? So these are some of the broad elements that come up. A lot of the sales driven organizations that I work with, in the sense of what they want to be as a few coaching goals, could be for people to get more number focused. uh, how can they really, really align with the business model of the organization? How can they integrate faster? um, how can they transition? So I mean, look at the world today, right? You're living in a world which is so transient, which is so dynamic, that unless you are keeping pace with the change, you're becoming redundant like this.
Yeah.
So when you look at coaching, it also is also looking at the need to really build resilience in people. It's looking to build a lot of openness to change, transitioning, adaptability. All of these. Now, it again depends on what the organization wants, Himani. So in a one-on-one coaching context, we work with what the client wants to work with. When it is an organizational sponsored coaching intervention, there are the elements of, the broad umbrella of what the organization wants to gain, which is then dovetailed into what the individual wants to look at as his or her coaching goal. So that's how the whole process plays out.
And Sandhya, two, three things come up here for me. It's like if we see, yes, the people have to move as per the changes. Okay, the changes are going very, very fast, especially after the AI has come up in the market.
Yeah.
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 And what is I'm realizing is a lot of leaders who are mostly, maybe above 40, 45 into that is Jones, okay? For them, if they are not able to go and match as per what the changes require, the kind of insecurities is also coming.
Yeah, big time, Himani.
Yeah,
Big time. And
yeah,
Himani, at the end of the day, we're all human,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
We're dealing with human beings who are flesh and blood, who have emotions, who have fears, insecurities. All of this plays out. And I always feel this, and this is also spoken a lot, that when you reach the top in an organization,
yeah,
leadership is a very, very lonely place to be, because you've achieved there, and at one point of time you realize that I have nobody to share my world with. I've gone through so much. I've built this organization which is really, really thriving, which is dynamic. But leaders at the top are generally very lonely. And there is also fear. There is also, huge amount of worry,
yeah,
stress. So fears and insecurities, and this is true at across levels. You look at
yeah.
any a fresher joining an organization is very fearful about, oh my God, whether I will gel with this company.
Mm,
Will I be able to pick up the work? Somebody who's at the mid level is worried about, do I even have a place that I could move up? Or do I even have a role that I could aspire for? So these are all very real fears and insecurities, which we all are, all
yeah.
of us go through these.
And with one this thing, I always feel that of course coaching is there for till now mostly for the leaders or executive
Yeah,
levels. I
yeah.
think it should come slightly down for the mid management also. Maybe
It is.
companies maybe can go for team coaching. Yeah, but I
Yes.
think it will bring a lot of,
That's
yeah, sorry.
that's
Yeah,
exactly what's happening. Sorry
yeah,
to
yeah,
interrupt, Himani. I think
yeah.
so. The way that the coaching world is kind of heading towards is that at the top level, at the CXO level,
Hmm.
uh, you probably have a one-on-one coaching, or you definitely have a one-on-one coaching, because that journey is very different and the
Mm,
intervention is at a very different level. And then you have team coaching, which really talks of either team coaching or group coaching. So let's say you have, so one of the organizations that I coached for, they had created teams from cross-functional departments,
hmm,
but their goal was
hmm.
one,
Yeah.
and they had to come up with a product, or they had to redesign a product, but it had people from design, from purchase, from engineering.
Mm,
So in that context, what you're, and these are all people who maybe with 8, 10 years of experience or even lesser.
mm,
So there is where your group coaching or team coaching can really help. And I think people are also realizing that when you have a team or a group coaching, the impact of that in the organization is probably bigger, because you have that many more touch points, and the
yeah,
cascading effect is much more. So yes, absolutely right that we've got to look at coaching for everybody across the organization, especially the middle management as well. First time managers, again, a huge area where uh, and there is genuine fear, right? You're being put into a manager role. I don't even know how to manage. I may know theoretically, but there are real life issues.
mm,
People may not look at me as a manager. I have to build that credibility. Um, so, what do I do with that fear? Or how do I get over that fear? And can I dive into my basket of strengths and see what strength can I pull out and play? So,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
And I think with this also it will help the leaders also because only they will not only change from one side, the change will be
Yes.
from both sides. It will help
Yes.
more alignment. Yeah.
We're looking at top down and bottom up
Yes.
both. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And with this, another question is, what kind of companies should invest in coaching?
Oh, I think anybody can invest in coaching. So I've had the pleasure and the honor of working with, like I said, big companies. I've also worked a lot with entrepreneurs. I've also worked a lot with companies that are not very big, but who really see the value in coaching because they've seen. I mean, imagine that you have a company which has maybe 25, 30 people, right? Now you have the entrepreneur who comes with his vision, passion, and you have business owners who are absolutely charged up, right? You have the funding. You have maybe two or three people in the organization who you know are bankable and who you know can really take the company from here to here, there you have a coaching intervention lined up, because that's when you can really harness that whole energy and that whole system into taking the organization to where you want to be. So you can start as young
Mhm.
as what do you call, as few in numbers as possible. You can even have a one man organization and
Yeah,
you can invest in coaching for the entrepreneur,
yeah.
because I think, see, the best part about coaching, as I have lived and experienced it, is that I am not giving any gyan.
Mm,
I'm not telling you what to do, but
mm,
I'm working with you. I'm actually partnering with you to see what you have and what is it that you can bring out in the open and work with.
mm,
And that is so powerful because it's also sustaining. You can also, it's not a training session or it's not a workshop where you are in there for 3 4 days and then you get into your your routine or your life. Here you're really working at the very core of who you are,
mm,
and that's where change happens. So to answer your question, Imani, I think there is no such um, qualifier, if I may use that word, for coaching. Anybody, any organization, however big, however small, and I've worked with both, so I know that the benefits are uh, pretty much there.
I think maybe you can say maybe I like coaching more. I don't say that training, mentoring has its own importance, but I somehow like coaching more. And with this, I want to say, especially what I really like about coaching is so many organizations, of course, they conduct the training, employees go, they just enjoy, come back, get back into their own routine. But
Yeah,
with coaching, so much interventions keep happening. It makes them think, self-reflect, and just to see what they want to improve. So this is
yeah.
something I feel is really powerful. Yeah.
I agree because, like I said, one of the major advantages that I've seen in coaching is that uh, it's the client awareness that you are generating.
Mm.
And that awareness is something, and you're also making the client accountable, right? Because the actions, all of that, you're asking the client to work with it. Okay, what is it that you want to do, and how will you do it? How will you hold yourself accountable for this? But again, I think there are also some people who probably who do not take to coaching the way that others do, and that's fine because I think they may not be at a point in life or they may not be ready for that intervention yet. So I've also had people who've come to me who've had one or two sessions and said, "This is not for me."
Mhm.
Absolutely fine. Maybe the alignment is not there with me, or maybe they're not in a space which is conducive for
Yeah.
coaching yet.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And I'm happy as a coach is, we are always ready to accept their decisions, acknowledge that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, I think one thing that I have really gone through is letting go of who I am and being one with the client in that space. Because otherwise, if you're going to hold on to your ego and holding
Mm.
on to your own, how am I doing as a coach, and that constantly playing on your mind, you're not in the moment with the client. And that defeats the entire purpose of coaching. So I agree with you that, as coaches, I think, which is why I said initially that there's a lot of inner work to be done on our own selves.
Yeah.
Where you reach a stage where you say, "Okay, I may not be, I may not have performed exceptionally well as a coach, as long as a client has taken away
Yeah.
what they wanted to achieve." So it's all about the client.
Right. And that's why, once one person asked me that you are a coach from last so few years, so why you still
Mm.
have a coach? And I
Yeah.
told the and I told the person, I need to work on myself also each and every day. It is not only about my clients. Yeah.
So even as coaches, you would know this, right? There are we undergo a lot of supervision, right?
Yes.
We've got communities. There is a lot of
Yeah.
exchange. We learn from each other a lot, and all of this is because you cannot say that, "Oh, I've arrived as a coach."
Yeah.
Yeah, because every client, every situation is so different, is so unique. You may have different models that you may want to use, but not all models can fit everyone. So for some people, and I'm not somebody who uses a lot of models. I just go with the flow and I work with the client to see what is emerging for them. But I think it is a journey, and many of my clients have come back to me and said, um, we're still able to continue and sustain the momentum because of what happened to us in that coaching. And to me, that is the biggest victory, not only for that individual, but also the organization that they are part of.
Yeah.
Because so the touch points for that person with all the other stakeholders, employees, team members will be different. There
Yeah.
will be a marked improvement, or there will be a change in the way that they interact with other members in the organization. And that is what will bring about overall change and growth.
Okay, let's ask the next question. It is about challenges. Okay,
Mhm.
so how can coaching help address ingrained negative behaviors or communication patterns within a team?
Very good question. So, many times, I think the team or a group, there is so much of strength of experience. There is collective strength, There is a collective basket of experience, of knowledge, of wisdom, of all of that, which they don't tap into or which they're not even aware of,
Yeah.
right? So while as individuals, you may have four, five, six areas that you want to work on, when they come together as a team, what they realize is that, hey, you know what? I think as a team, even if I don't have this quality, somebody else has it. Can I look to him or her or them for support? So communication, especially, I think when you are in a team coaching scenario, after you finish the intervention, and I've seen this, definitely the levels of communication improve because you are living real life scenarios. You are not, and there is a lot of facilitation when you are doing team coaching, right? You kind of, you leverage the experience of the group. You ask other people to share what has been their learning and how can that learning be weaved into this team goal. Again, all of them are aligned to one goal. So even if it's a team coaching, you've got a broad goal to work with, that this is the goal of the team and how are we going to achieve that as a team. And in that process, communication, collaboration, um, asking for help,
Yeah.
biggest uh, problem that teams I've seen, they find it very difficult to ask for help. But I've also seen that pattern changing once they get into that intervention, once they see that it's okay to be human and to ask for help.
Yeah.
So, what was your question again, Himani? Whether
Yeah,
there are
sure.
the
So it is about, like we talk about like, different challenges, how coaching can help ingrain negative behaviors or communication patterns within a team.
yeah. So all of this, I think,
Yeah.
any coaching scenario, whether it's individual, whether it's group, whether it's team,
Yeah.
uh, the focus is on looking at who are you? Who are you as a team? Who do you want to be as a team? And once they articulate that we want to be a team which is self-sufficient, self-reliant, you may ask a question, so what's stopping you then? And then they say, oh, but we don't communicate, or we don't talk, or we don't trust each other. So what's making you not trust each other? What's the fear there? So when you go through them in detail, when you really do a deep dive, most of these issues, if not all, they they get addressed, and they're spoken at the table. They're addressed then, there, and now. And uh, well, I've seen that most people do communicate and collaborate better, and it requires work,
Hmm.
because then it also requires the team to constantly be in touch. It requires people to pull each other up,
Mm.
support each other. But all these behaviors are discussed depending on what the need of the team is at that point of time.
And one thing also, Sandhya, what I really like about coaching here is like, see, we all know, like if we discuss with any individual or maybe companies, everyone, like so many coachings happen, trainings happen on the work-life balance, communication,
Yeah.
behavioral resilience. Okay, so many trainings happen, but still a lot of people still face this problem,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And these things, when the company see in the maybe within the team, they have that. But I think when in coaching, especially when the team coaching has been given, many times I've seen the reflection
Mm.
of a team that they have to go beyond their own self,
Yeah.
from me
Absolutely.
to we. So that transition I see at that moment. Yeah.
And also, when you are in that team coaching setup, you realize that you're not alone with your fears and worries and insecurities.
Yeah.
Everybody is going through some or the other battle,
Yeah.
and that you are not alone. So it's perfectly all right to feel low, to feel down, to ask for help, and you're not being told what to do. You are coming out with solutions yourself. I think that is the biggest game changer in coaching. It's not a training where I have a PPT slide and I'm saying, do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Mm,
No,
mm,
you are actually bringing out awareness. You're looking at, you're looking at what is it that the team needs to do, and they are saying it. The coach is just providing the space and
mm.
gently nudging by asking some questions. And that's where the magic happens, really.
And very interestingly, I was coaching somebody a few days back, and the person came for me for the leadership coaching. Okay. And first session happened, second session came. Second session, the person was like going through a total different transition. Started from
Wow.
leadership, and it was all something related to all personal thing, which was she was able to link with the leadership issues. Then from the personal to the childhood part, whole link.
Yeah.
And after second session, she told me, you know what? I never thought these sessions will go like this.
And this has happened to me as well, that you
Yeah,
end up, you begin with something,
yeah,
but during the journey, there are so many different turns and alleys that you have to
yeah,
navigate.
yeah.
And that's where the beauty of coaching is, that you could, and it's the client's need, right? You could ask the client, so do you want to go here?
Hmm.
And the client says, yes, I want to go there. You go
Hmm.
there.
Yes,
So it is a client-driven process, which is what makes it that much more impactful and sustaining for the client.
yeah, yeah. I was sustaining Sandhya. This question was not in mind. How you want to say coaching and sustainability in the results?
Mm. So, very important question. And I think organizations are now really looking at what is the ROI on coaching, So, is it a short-term measure? Now, as a coach, it is also my duty to see, maybe after 6 or 8 conversations that I've had with the client, I need to be mindful that I'm not being a crutch, right?
Yeah.
I'm letting the person do, be, fall, get up, rise, whatever it is. And if need be, maybe take some refreshing sessions. And many clients do come back to me for this, that, what, we've had our 6 or 8 conversations now, and there's been a gap of 6, 8 months. Can we have a refresher? Now, the refresher is basically the work that you need to do in those refresher conversations, maybe not as deep, but it's just to say, okay, so, just maybe trim a few edges here and there and say, okay, what's happening? What did you find difficult to do? And what are you still struggling with? So, but uh, it is something that is, I think, still a gray area, Himani, to be very honest, because
Yes.
mm, it is an investment. Coaching is an investment. Building a coaching culture. So, which is why when you build a coaching culture, when it's systemically built in an organization, it's not one person dependent, right? You have people who are behaving like coaches. You have leaders who are using coaching principles to work with their teams. And that is more sustaining because you have it in a larger context. There are more people who have gone through the process. Hence, I say that organizations today must focus on really building the organization in terms of having a coaching culture.
Very well said. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. If I want to ask you next thing is, as you said in the few conversation also, that not everyone embraces coaching initially,
Yeah.
and sometimes they don't also, right? How can leaders foster a culture of openness and acceptance for coaching within their own organization?
So to be very honest, no, Himani, there is no one rule or one formula that works here, right?
Yeah.
I have been part of organizations where there were leaders who were resistant. There were
Mm,
people who were, not very keen to go through with the coaching. But when they saw what impact it had on their peers,
mm,
um, the interest and the curiosity got built. So
mm,
for some people, it's just about saying, अरे देखते हैं क्या, I don't know what this is. We don't know what this is. It might be just, let's see what it is.
Yeah,
So, and for some people, they just don't accept it no matter what,
yeah,
because they're not, some of them may not even be able to uh, go into themselves and or do a deep dive into their own self to see what needs work.
yeah,
um, there's nothing wrong in it, but I think so you takes all kinds, right? So but I think leaders, what they can do is to really, if they can be coaches themselves, if they can adopt the coaching practice for their teams, and um, if they become internal coaches in the organization, they will, people below will see the benefits of what it means to be coached. And that's when I'm talking about a culture, because then it becomes a way of life for organizations. It's not happening in pockets.
yes,
But even first time managers, they know what, or they know what does it mean when you say you're a coach, that you're not really giving solutions, you're working with the individual to build the individual up. um I don't know if I've answered that, but that's my
no, no,
that's
you've
my take.
answered it, because why I asked you about openness, even when I was telling somebody, okay, the person asked me what coach does, and I told the process and everything. Then the person was like, and how you're helping if I have to find the answers
Yeah.
myself?
That's a very common one.
That's a very common one. And then I didn't say much because I was able to connect with the person, because when I started learning coaching journey, being a coach,
Mm.
I also asked my the coach supervisor, like, you know what, how it is going to help this process if I have to find the answers myself. But then I started learning it. I started realizing its power.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I feel. A lot of people, they say, oh yes, coaches are really helpful, but we have to find our own answers. But the thing is, like, it's that is the whole beauty.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, so a lot of my clients, when they start first, after the
Yeah,
chemistry session, when we do your first conversation, they're like, if we have to do all the work, then why are you here?
yeah,
And that's a I mean, it's a very
yeah,
logical question to have.
yeah,
But session two, three is when they really understand what's happening.
yeah,
I have seen my clients go completely shaken up,
yeah.
because they've not even explored this possibility, or they've not even explored this part of themselves,
Hmm.
which probably is limiting their entire growth or entire existence. And once they become aware of that, that's when they realize, acha, now
Mm,
we know, you know.
okay. Yeah.
But for people who don't really look at it as something that they want to do, my answer to them is
Hmm.
no problem at all.
Yes, true. And with this, before I ask next question, Sandhya, I want to give an example. I give many people about communication. Okay.
Mm,
So sometimes if people say, okay, we are finding a communication challenge, because I remember 2 years back, a person come to me for the communication part. And she told me I needed training. So many, I need the techniques and everything. Okay. I told, okay, fine. Maybe you will get 100 techniques on the YouTube, maybe on
mm,
Instagram. Okay. You can
mm.
join some courses for the communication.
Yeah.
But do you know about yourself from where your communication challenge is coming? If you go and
Mm.
learn those techniques, after 6, 7 days, you will land at the same place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you know your communication is coming from where? When I was keep digging, she was just like, oh, from the childhood, I always used to have a fear from my father,
Yeah.
never able to open up. And I told her, if that part is not resolved, even if you are
Correct.
going doing 100 courses also, I'm not saying those won't help it, but they will help you for some time. You have to
There are
work on your grasp.
temporary fixes. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. So exactly what you said, which is why
Yeah.
I said that when you are looking at a coaching intervention, you're really looking at the who of the person. You're not
Yeah.
looking at content, you're looking at context.
Yes.
And when you're looking at context and the who of the person, there is a lot of discussion about value systems, about beliefs,
Yeah.
about who is this person. And we also, in fact, we also invite the client to challenge some values and beliefs, whether it is
Mm.
serving them at all.
Yeah.
A lot of my clients, I've seen when I work with them, they have certain values that have been ingrained in them as kids.
Mm.
But now they realize that this value has no meaning, or this belief system that I had has no meaning.
Yeah.
So can you drop it?
Yeah.
And what will happen if you drop it? Now, these are questions that are exploratory in nature. And that is what coaching does, which a training is more directional.
Yes.
Whereas coaching is more inward looking. You're looking at solutions within, you're looking at your way of being.
Yes.
And that is where transformation happens. And this applies to team, group, individual, any form of coaching.
Yeah. And Sandhya, I know you have coached so many employees for the companies. Okay. But if you want to share specific example, okay, how you helped a company use coaching to transform their work culture, and what are the challenges and successes you have seen there?
So without giving, without naming any
Yes.
company, I've worked for different companies where I've worked with the top leadership. Also, I worked at the director level. I've worked at the mid manager level. I've worked at the sales levels, engineering levels. Um, so when they come with a problem statement, it's still a little vague because they don't know what to expect. So they still say, "Acha, we want teamwork to be better, or we want, let's say, our leaders to work on these four areas." Um, and what happens is when they, like I said, when they go through, and I insist that at least 8 sessions have to happen. Otherwise, you will not see that change happening, because 3, 4 is completely not enough for any change to happen. It's a process, it's a journey. Um, so so let's say if I were to take one example of an advertising agency that I am a part of, and I coached a lot of their mid-level managers. I coached a lot of their business heads, department heads. And really what I saw, and in not all of them, but at least in a few of them, was that their ability to become more aware of who they were and what they wanted to do changed. So from a state of unconscious competence or unconscious incompetence, they were really moving to a state of conscious competence where they were looking at, acha, in this situation, this is something that probably, or this is what I normally react, or this is how I normally am. You just be aware of that, because then what needs to be done will automatically be done. Now, what this did was, because I coached at least about 12 people in their organization, the ripple effect it had
Mm.
was profound.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, Now, again, if you look at another large company that I coached, which was more into automobiles, they had very specific goals.
Mm.
And by the end of the third or fourth team, and this was more of a team coaching thing, uh, I didn't even need to, even if I was not there, the team was sustaining on its own.
Mm.
Yeah. Initially, there was a lot of resistance, or the challenge was that, let's say, the heads of those teams, kya ye log, what are they doing in coaching? What really is happening? There was a lot of, and rightfully
Yeah.
so. But when they saw that teams were being more collaborative, teams were being more communicative, and they were
Mm.
really aligned to the goals, that's where they saw the shift happening in speed. One, um, more and more issues being raised to the table, and really solving those issues quickly.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, Customer feedback was one of the biggest areas that we felt. That was one of the measures of success, where we asked, and they said,
And it is
that
not an easy thing to have this
not at all.
measure. Yeah.
Not at all. And
Yeah.
customers, what, a company that I coached for, one of the feedback was, a customer said, we find that the salesperson is asking us more open-ended questions about what we want to do with our business.
Wow. And that happens very rare, very frankly. I've been in sales so many years. Yeah.
Yes. So what this person did was, he was asking the customer, his client,
Mhm.
so what are your plans for business? How do you see your business grow in the next 2 years? And this customer apparently told this account head that, we've never been asked such questions, because it was a very transactional
Yeah.
relationship. But because of the experience that this person had in coaching,
Mhm.
he knew the importance of being more aligned to the customer's business, doing a lot of mining, asking the right questions.
Yeah.
So these are some of the examples. So I've worked with companies who are into real estate, auto manufacturing, IT. IT, in fact, so I've had the fortune, and I've been blessed to work with across industries, and I think um, it takes time. right? There is bit of resistance. I'm not saying that there isn't. There is enough resistance. There is skepticism around coaching.
Yeah.
Uh, like, what will a coach do? So if you don't tell me what I'm supposed to do, then why are you here? Which is the
Yeah.
most common thing
Yeah.
that you hear.
Yeah.
Uh,
And when people say, "Oh, I can ask the question myself," Mega, yeah, if you want to ask the question yourself, then ask and to be accountable. How many times you become accountable? Yeah.
Plus, there is a lot of questioning on what is coaching, how is mentoring different,
Yeah.
to counseling kya hai,
Yeah.
so all these different forms, again, there is a lot of confusion,
Yeah.
so take your time to address those issues, and then when the client sees the work happening, I think that's where
Yeah.
change happens.
Yeah. And Sandhya, before I ask you next question, just very small example I want to give here is like I was doing one of this team coaching, and in that
Mhm.
we had to do some facilitation also. And I asked them just to do simple things: make a face, okay, make a heart, okay. Just see what is going in your head right now, what is going in your heart right now.
Wow.
Sometimes a lot of feelings, emotions we go through, even we don't know, is it coming from our heart or is it coming from our head?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So true. In fact, when you ask somebody, and this is a live thing,
yeah,
what are you feeling?
yeah,
You know, the response that comes is, I think. I said, I didn't ask you to think.
yeah,
What are you feeling?
yeah,
Because I think we struggle to connect with our feelings.
yes,
We're so head centered, most of us, that even if we are heart, even if we operate from our heart,
mm,
the response, or we believe that agar wo logical nahi hua, to then
mm,
that doesn't make sense. Which is why, so then I have to ask, no, but I didn't ask you what you think.
mm,
What are you feeling?
yeah,
And it takes time for people to say, I'm feeling hungry, I'm feeling irritated, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling excited, whatever.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely right, Amani.
yeah.
Very, very valid observation.
With this, I asked, like when you said anger, I asked irritation. I asked the person, is that anger or irritation coming from your head or heart? The person
Mm.
got totally like, what? What is this question?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think it takes time to connect with ourselves. It's a journey. It takes time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we are wired so differently, and
yeah,
in an organizational context, I think
yeah.
the pressure to be right is so high.
So high.
The the whole pressure to sound very intelligent, am I being judged?
Yeah,
All those things I think play really, really
true.
high.
Yeah. Okay. So then what I want to ask here is, coaching can seem a big undertaking, okay, for an organization. What are some initial steps a company can take to incorporate coaching into their working environment?
I think first you need to look at what are you really looking to get out of this intervention? What do you want to do, and why are you doing it? Right? There has to be clarity on individual needs of people plus organizational goals. It cannot work dysfunctionally. There has to be alignment. Okay, as an organization, this is where I want to be in the next 2 years, 1 year. These are some of the competencies that I want to build, or these are some of the areas that I want to focus on. Can I look at where am I?
Mm,
What is it that's stopping me from going here?
yeah.
And who are the people who will be part of this journey? What are their individual, where are they? And what do they want to be? So a lot of dialogue, one, a lot of understanding of where the organization wants to be, and then really discussing with, I think it's a very collaborative effort that will be required from the business owner, from the HR, from the coach. And once you arrive at what, who, and
Mm,
why, I think that's when you realize, okay, maybe this part can be handled by training. If it's a skill based thing,
true.
you need to go for training. But if you're looking at a behavior, or if you're looking at really transforming someone, and hence transforming the team or the department or whatever, then coaching is the right place to be. So, and also having a frank conversation with the individual and saying, hey, you know what, this is what I want you to do, but I think these are some of the gaps. What do you think needs to be done? And how do you look at coaching? Yeah. So if you look at US, a lot of companies have coaches with their leaders who are like lifelong or at
Yeah.
least a minimum of 2 years, and they work in tandem. Like they work very closely together. So initial steps is to really look at alignment of business needs, individual goals, finding out where the gaps are, uh, conversations, dialogues. Building that healthy discussion and saying, what can we do together? And then bringing in the coach to see what kind of a coach will work. Because not all coaches will fit every
True.
business context. So looking at and letting the client or the individual be comfortable with the coach. See if there is alignment. If there's no alignment, then the whole conversation or the whole engagement can derail. So that alignment is also very important.
You're right. I think especially for the company, whoever takes this decision, like has the company go for coaching, training, or mentoring, they have to see those gaps very clearly.
Yeah.
Rather than doing just we say like in the sales transactional way, rather just doing transactional way, okay, fine, we have to meet our commitment to provide
Yeah.
the training to the employees or taking them for outbound training. So just see, because the reason is this: when something happens, when people see the company something not going good, then they run for that. Why don't you
Correct.
take the actions before that?
Correct. So
Yeah.
again, like I said, coaching may not be relevant in all business or in all the contexts. So
True.
really understanding what requires what intervention
Yeah.
is again very key. And for some situations, you need to undergo an offsite training program. You need to undergo a skill level intervention. You need to have, maybe for some, you need to only do mentoring. You don't even need coaching.
True.
So identifying what you want to achieve, and then you look at the how.
Mm.
So why is most important, like
Yeah.
Simon Sinek says in his videos, right?
Yeah.
Understand why. Why do you want to do it?
Yeah.
The rest will fall in place.
Yeah. True. And with this, Sandhya, I want to ask you one of the uh, almost last question. What advice would you give to company that just starting out with coaching? Okay.
Hmm.
Especially those companies, who has never gone into the coaching, especially startups, SMEs, they don't
Yeah.
invest till now in much coaching. And how can they ensure it becomes a sustainable and impactful part of their work culture?
Hmm. So SMEs is a challenge because um, they're so caught up in the operational part of it. They're
Yeah.
anyways lean. They've so many issues to grapple with. उसमें अगर if you tell them, let's do coaching, unless they really see a business value, it becomes very difficult. But again, having coached a lot of SMEs, I also know that um, the value and the delta that it can bring to your business is really
Mm-hmm.
really huge, because you then have people who are really aligned and who are
Mm-hmm.
okay to look at themselves and see what needs to be done differently, right? So companies who are starting out their coaching journey or their coaching intervention, I think need to really have as many discussions as possible with their internal teams, have discussions with a few coaches, bring them on, evaluate them. Don't go with one coach. Evaluate a few coaches and see if there is alignment of the coach with your organizational values as well. That's key. I think value alignment is very, very key. And don't do it on a big scale. Do it with a few people. See what happens. See the impact that it has, right? And allow the coaching intervention to uh, uh, kind of happen over a period of time, and wait for transformation to happen, because we're not talking skills here. We're talking
Yeah.
behavior, talking transformation at a very core level of who a person is. And that needs time.
Yeah.
And also ensuring that you get people who are trained and certified coaches, and who follow a certain system. So you could go with ICF, or you could go with anything else. I am an ICF trained coach, and there is a certain sanctity and a certain process with which we coach. So I think it's also important for organizations to evaluate coaches in the right manner, to ask the right questions to the coach, to see value alignment, and to ensure that you are looking at credentialed coaches who can, who can add value to your business as well.
And Sandhya, when you were talking about the SMEs here, like especially if I talk about from the Indian context, okay, in SMEs, employees stay for a very longer term.
Yeah.
Yeah, they it's like in few companies still you will find so many people they almost start their career there and they end their career in SMEs, right?
Mhm.
And if they are investing on those employees, I think it's a very valuable investment for them.
Absolutely. Because that employee, see, typically, if you're an SME, you're looking
Yeah,
at somebody who's literally, even ideated with you, who's really was there with the way that the organization has begun. So he or she or them, they know the workings, they know the logic, they know the vision.
yeah,
And if those people are coached and you're able to harness that potential, that energy, that passion, and those values, you've got a winner.
true.
So
Yeah,
imagine if that person who's coached then trickles it down to the rest of the team, whoever comes in new. I
yeah.
think that is how culture is established.
And one challenge which SMEs don't see, still it is a big challenge which I've seen is like a person has started a journey with a company. Okay, the owner was there. Now the because mostly in these companies it is a like succession legacies comes is like the family, the son will become the owner in the future for the companies. It'll go in
Yeah.
a hierarchy like this, right?
Yes.
So when the son, okay, has gone and become now maybe the owner of a company, okay, he has come with a different culture, he has come with a different age group. And for
Yeah.
a person who is working from last so many years, they see a lot of difference. Sometimes it
Absolutely.
becomes so difficult for them to adjust it with the new owner. And yeah,
Actually, in fact, Himani, what I'm also seeing is a lot of these SMEs, you've got the second gen
yes,
people coming in, and these are people who have studied abroad.
yeah,
Right? They've all been to, B schools across the globe. They know what is happening there in the world.
mm,
They know what is business competitive advantage, and when they take over the reins, I
mm,
think that's the breed that I've seen is more open to also investing in coaching
yeah,
because they've seen the world. Yes, they also struggle, and there is a generation gap between their predecessors and themselves, but there is also a lot of openness because they know what's happening in the world and why these interventions are important for a business. So it works both ways.
yeah,
Um, so even a lot of traditionally managed firms, companies, when the son takes over or when the daughter takes over, who's come from abroad or whatever, the whole perspective changes.
mm,
And it's difficult for somebody who's been in the company for a long time to adjust. Absolutely right.
yeah,
So uh, you could do as much as you can to align them, to bring them back. But these are also some tough business decisions that have to be taken. And, those I
yeah,
think are very dependent on what the business need is.
yeah,
That's another set of people for whom coaching can become extremely crucial because there you're going to discover if there is vision alignment at all. Agar wohi nahi, if that itself is not there,
yeah,
then skill itself is irrelevant.
yeah. I know why I'm able to correlate Sandhya now more with this challenge because I have done my second master's recently. Okay. And with me, very frankly, there were so many young students were there.
Yeah.
Okay. And they have gone back to India and joined their family businesses.
Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
when they joined it, they were finding difficult how to make a rapport with the people who are already
Hmm.
in the company from last so many years who think in a different way.
That's a big, big area of
Yeah,
concern. And I mean, I'm seeing that in some companies that I'm there with, and it's a real challenge. But so there, probably you've got to have a mix of maybe some interventions like coaching. You also have to look at very clear and crisp business objectives and looking at people alignment issues.
yeah,
Maybe some tough calls need to be taken or whatever, whatever. But I'm
yeah.
saying that it's a real problem that people today are facing, and especially in the whole SME world. It is an issue.
And I think we do a lot of discussion, and with this, for us also, a new discussion has happened with the SMEs part.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything which Sandhya would you like to say in last something?
No, I think I've really. seen that, today organizations, it's a cutthroat world.
Yeah.
It is a cutthroat world. It is a dynamic world. And if people are going to be your biggest assets, if people are going to be, and in this world of AI and, AI, ML and all of that, I think the differentiator is going to be your human asset.
Yeah.
Um, which is why they're not resources anymore. We don't like to call them resources. They're assets, they're people, they're flesh and blood, their emotions, they're all of that. Um, so in a intervention like coaching, which is very human and yet which follows a system, I think organizations are slowly warming up to that idea. There is a lot of focus on coaching. There is a lot of awareness about coaching, which is slowly building up. There is a lot of community work that is happening around coaching, and a lot of companies or a lot of coaching happening for women folk leadership in the women's space. You are doing so much of work in that area, Himani, and that's really commendable because you're cutting across, industries, you're cutting across barriers and really focusing on what needs to be done to enable women to really realize who they are and what is the full potential that they bring. So, um, I think there's some great work happening. Uh, there's a lot to be done. And I think coaches have to be equally responsible and accountable for uh, coaching as a profession. It's extremely important because there is a lot of sanctity. There's a lot of ethics of coaching. You would know that, right? We
Yeah.
follow a lot of ethics in coaching, and um, all of that has to be upheld. We've got to talk to business and deliver ROI as well.
Mm.
It cannot be an isolated intervention jahan pe we're doing coaching and we're saying no, but
Mm.
has to have an impact on the business.
Yeah.
So I think we're getting there.
Yeah.
And I would urge all organizations to really look at coaching in whatever form, team, individual, group, whatever it is, explore it and see what it does. And I'm sure that, there'll be a lot of benefits that individuals, organizations, business owners, entrepreneurs can all derive from coaching.
And yeah, I would say thank you so much, Sandhya, for coming today and giving so many insights because we have discussed a lot of things. The companies, the work culture, the Gen Zs, the SME part, how should be the implementation would be there. And it is completely okay if for a company like coaching is not a call at this moment, that's fine. Maybe they can go
Yes.
for training, mentoring, but they have to
Absolutely.
see what their employees actually need. Where is the gap? Yeah,
Yes. Employees and business both. So
yeah,
how can both
be
work
aligned.
in combination? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It was a wonderful
yeah.
evening spent with you, Himani, as
Same
always.
here. And you know what? Very frankly, in this session of Sandhya, in earlier session, I was more of a charged up active. But in your this session, I have gone into a lot of thoughts, very frankly. Yeah. And that's the reason
Uh,
I was very quiet and slow today. The reason is it was making me do a lot of thinking.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So it was a kind of for me, a coaching session.
No, it was
Yeah.
it was a pleasure talking to
Yeah.
you, and I
Same.
think it's always been a pleasure. And this subject is so close to me that I think I
Yeah.
just probably get a little
Yeah.
over enthusiastic about coaching, but I'm glad to have been part of this conversation with you, Himani. And I look forward to
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Sandhya. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Thank you.
Himani. You too. Bye bye.